Okay. So, hi, my name is Melinda Price, and this is the pilot episode of a new initiative from the University of Kentucky Gaines Center for the Humanities that we're calling Over Yonder, where we're going to talk to Kentucky artists and scholars about working while social distancing. And my first guest is Crystal Wilkinson, who is I love when you Google you, Crystal, it says Crystal Wilkinson, African American feminist writer from Kentucky, which I think hits a lot of high points. So do you want me to do more introduction?
No, that's good.
No, that's good.
Whatever you want to do.
So when I practice with my, I forgot to introduce my tech support. So I should say that I'm social distancing.
I'm just the tech guy. I'm not tech support.
With the tech guy, James Price.
I do all the tech.
So the first question I asked in our test interviews, and I interviewed James, was, is this your first pandemic?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't around for the last one in 1918 or whatever it was.
He actually mentioned the plague, the Black Plague.
Okay.
I was like, so one of I think one of the first things we have all had to grapple with in the transition to remote work is workspace. In the transition to remote work is workspace. So how did you already have workspace as a writer in your home, or did you have to carve out a new space?
This pandemic speaks to my procrastination, because I do have an office in the back of the house, which I've been procrastinating for 6 months of, like, when I get my office together, this, that, or the other. And so I had to carve out a space. I'm actually here in our living room. We live in a very small house because I didn't get my office together. So that's what I plan on doing once the semester's over. So because all of my writing retreats are going to be here at home. So I am going to finish my office and get it together.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So tell me generally your thoughts about social distancing, where we are now, this moment. I feel like I know some of them because I follow you on Twitter, but
yeah, it's been really difficult. And I think that, well, two things. One, personally, it hasn't been that difficult because I'm sort of a hermit anyway. So it's like, without the pandemic, this would be ideal if someone said, you have to work from home and, we prefer you not to come out. I would be cheering. But of course, with the pandemic and how awful it's been with the deaths and how scary it is. We've never been through anything like that. It's hitting African Americans particularly hard. And so, I feel, I told Ron, I've told everybody that I talk to that I feel like we have a target on our back, right? So I'm older than some. I'm fat and I'm Black. So I feel like in some ways there's a target on my back, and I joke about that a lot, but of course it's serious, and it's been heartbreaking to watch the numbers across the country. And as far as teaching is concerned, I think there's this belief that things should go on as normal, and we do want to try to make it as normal as possible, but at the same time I think we have to be sensitive of one another's humanity. Like, this is nothing that any of us has ever seen. So to sort of command or demand of a student that, well, I need this paper turned in, you missed the deadline, is just highly inappropriate at this time. And I think that we all have to, I've asked my students over and over again, how are you all doing?
Yeah.
And they've all come back with appreciation for that, because not many people have asked them that in the midst of all of this. So I check in with them quite often see how everyone's doing.
So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, because in your writing, you know that I'm constantly saying how you are an ecological writer. And I wondered, like, when you think about, so safety is such a huge and overwhelming concern. And when you think about a safe place, like one of the recommendations I heard was to always keep in your mind a place where you feel safe if you feel overwhelmed. And I wonder if you might be willing to share your safe place and where you go in your mind to escape the realities of what's happening.
Well, you know me through my writing, and personally, I do go back to my childhood. I go back to the place that I grew up on. I go back to sitting by the creek and reading and listening to the water trickle. That's probably my primary safe place, surrounded by trees, surrounded by rocks, and listening to the water.
So anyone who knows you and your work knows that you were raised by your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we think about the potential for illness and how do we take care of one another, I was wondering if you had any home remedies you remembered from when you were a kid.
Well, there's one home remedy that seems to be something that I've seen touted online, and it was something that my grandmother talked about a lot when people would get sick at home, is the steam kettle, and putting it. You know this one? No. So you put hot water on the stove, and
yes.
you remove it from the stove, and then you put a towel
over your head,
so that you have a steam bath for your face, and it sort of clears out your sinuses. If you breathe it in, it sort of affects the lungs a little bit. Certainly doesn't take the place of
medicine.
Of medicine. But
I always thought that was a beauty treatment.
Well, it's used for a lot of different things. And I've been doing the vitamin C. I think I've sort of driven Ron crazy with the vitamin C. I was like, we got to take our vitamin C tablets today. And every time I do a grocery run, I order oranges or mandarins or something citrusy.
So if you could give people like one home remedy for trying to be creative or to thrive or survive in this moment, what would you give us now?
Oh, writing. I think even people who don't claim to be writers have the capacity to write down feelings, even if they are unable to speak them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important. Even if you can't verbalize it to someone, a lot of people are quarantining by themselves, but make sure you write it down, no matter what your discipline is or what your focus is. I think just writing it down helps to release some of the stress from that.
Okay, so this is my last question because I told you this will be short and sweet. So of the insights or lessons in these weeks that we have been, asked to stay at home and stay safe, is there anything you might keep when we return to normal? Any habit you have picked up or?
Well, I don't know. Habits are hard to make and hard to break for me. Mm-hmm. So I may end up keeping them all, like this sort of frantic nature of, which I don't know if it's a good thing, but washing all the groceries off and being extra careful. Even before this, there of course are chemicals on our vegetables and fruits that we probably should be wiping off anyway. So I may keep that one, and who knows? I mean, I kind of like the idea of being incognito in a mask, so I may keep the mask.
Keep the mask.
I joke about that, but there's certainly other cultures and other countries who not so much for the protection of themselves, but for the protection of others. When they have the flu or if they have a cold, they wear a mask out of courtesy, out of being part of being having empathy for
Mhm.
others. I think
Yeah.
that's something that we could adapt.
Okay. Well, those are my questions, Crystal. Do you have anything you wanted to share or say that I didn't ask you about, that you've been wanting to say to people about this particular moment?
I don't. Well, the only thing that's come up for me is this idea of how selfish a society we are. That has really bothered me to think that there are some people in the country who thinks that the elderly are disposable. That's been important for me to think about, and to be very. Some of us are very selfish in our, in our grocery shopping and all of that. So finding some ways. I hope that is something that sticks with us after this is over. Finding ways to build community and to be less self-centered in the world.
That's a good note to end on. So thank you so much, Crystal. I really appreciate it.